As I've been learning how to become a better writer and going into grad school and writing books on my own and writing short stories and novellas, I've always tried to figure out how to become a better writer. It's something that seems so elusive, something that is so difficult to learn how to do. There's not just classes that you can pull up on the internet and you can download the knowledge and instantly become a better writer. Sure, I could find a Brandon Sanderson class on YouTube, or I could find a master class or something like that, but watching those tutorials and partaking in classes doesn't necessarily mean that I'm instantly going to become a better writer. Until I tried this one tip that I found in a blog post on Reddit, which seems super sketchy, but I promise you it works. This right here is 1356 by Bernard Cornwell. It is a historical novel that I read recently, but I did it a little bit differently than you might think. Normally I'd sit down by the fire to read in my free time whenever I get off of work, and I did that, but I did this a little bit differently. You see, I read a blog post by Mr. Cornwell himself where he said that the best practice he used when he was up and coming as a writer was to learn how to read like a writer. Now that's something that you hear passed around a ton. I mean, constantly. That is probably the number one piece of advice you'll see in Reddit posts, in those classes that I talked about earlier. But what does that even mean? Bernard Cornwell explained what that meant, and it clicked for me. Maybe it could click for you too. He said in his post that the best way that he figured out how to learn was to emulate. And obviously you can read and digest and emulate that way, but what he did was he took it a step further. Bernard decided if he was going to figure out how to write, he had to map out exactly what was happening in novels that he enjoyed reading. So for me, I picked 1356, a novel that is only about 400 pages. It's fast-paced, it's quick, it's snappy, and it emulates some of the genre tropes that you might see in fantasy, which is the genre that I write in the most. I figured this would be a really easy, quick book that I could read in a week, and I could get a bunch of notes on it to kind of build a game plan for how to plot a book. So that's exactly what I did. I read each chapter, and after I would read a chapter, I would write down a synopsis of what I just read. I would also write down some techniques that I would see Bernard using when he was writing out the story. So while I was reading this book, I would write a synopsis of every chapter right after I finished it. And then immediately after I wrote that synopsis, I would write down some techniques that I would see throughout the chapter. For example, if the sentences in Cornwell's writing sped up as the action sped up, or if I saw character changes in what they call polarity in the scene, where different characters are taking control throughout the scene, and how did that play out, and when did this character take control, and when did this character take control. I would write notes about all these things that I was seeing, trying to figure out why was Bernard doing what he was doing. As I was writing all these things down, I was learning how Bernard structures his stories. I was also learning when he did specific things, and I could infer why he was doing them. I started picking up on things that Cornwell was doing, and as I was writing them down, I realized that there was a rhythm to them. There was a pattern to them. Things were happening in a planned way, something that I probably would not have noticed if I just sat down to read the book normally. So what exactly does it look like to read like a writer? Obviously, we can read books, and reading books is great, but if you're just consuming without actually noting what you're reading, it may just go completely by the wayside. Doing this practice of annotating a book, but not just annotating it, noting and seeing what I'm reading and trying to figure out why certain things are happening within a novel helped me a ton as I was trying to plot out a novel of my own. I was able to take what I'd seen Bernard Cornwell do in his book, 1356, and I was able to use that as a roadmap for my own novel as I was plotting it out. So really quickly, I just wanted to show you kind of what I was doing when I was annotating these chapters and my process for actually going about doing that. So I would have each scene labeled in a scene by scene kind of basis, and then I would just sort of write out what I was reading in each scene. I can even go back and look at this now and sort of remember obviously what I was reading, but I can also remember some techniques that I noticed Cornwell using while he was writing this book, because I've got it all right here. And so essentially what I've created is a roadmap for how to write a novel that I get to keep forever. Right now I've literally got right here essentially an annotated outline for the type of book that I want to write. So listen, writing can be tough, and a lot of times it can feel like there's no real way to improve. And hopefully just picking a few books that you enjoy reading and annotating them will help you improve as a writer. Is that it? Is that the end of the video? Have we made it? Thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you're able to better learn how to read like a writer. Comment below what book you decided to do this process with, and I will see you in the next one.